The fastest way to becoming a happier writer is dedication. Dedication to the public, to the characters, and to the story. Now, we're talking about the simplest, the fastest way to become a happier writer, not the easiest way. Because here, in this case, happiness as a writer will be achieved through focus. Focus, again, on the public, character, and story, especially. And this dedication may seem difficult to achieve. Now, what does dedication imply? Giving your full attention, giving all your focus to the three elements: the public, the character, and the story. Now, what do you want to offer them? Well, to the characters first. Growth. A full dedication to the characters implies offering them the possibility to grow through the stories. And it is a possibility only because your character will have to make choices when it comes to growing. They will need to choose if they want to evolve or not. Same for the story. You should give opportunities to the story, and in this manner you will treat the story as a character in itself. You will give to the story the possibilities to evolve, because now the story can stagnate. You're only here as a facilitator, as a catalyst. Finally, it's the same for the public. You want to offer the public souvenirs. You want to grant them a certain amount of memories. Now it is up to them to create an attachment with these memories or not. The full extent of your dedication cannot override what these three elements, public, character, and story, will do. You can give it fully, but then you're only giving them information. You're only giving them intelligence. You're only giving them memories. It's up to them to choose what they want to do with it. The most efficient way to become a happier storyteller is to write 10 pages a day. Now, if you think about storytelling, if you think about writing, what do you want to do as a storyteller? What do you want to do as a writer? Well, you want to tell a story, you want to write them, you want to imagine them, you want to share them. So wouldn't you be happier if you were able to do more? Maybe not in the beginning, because when you start learning how to draw, when you start learning how to paint, the result is quite disengaging. You see that the graphical aesthetic does not work in the beginning. And it may feel the same for stories. But now think about it in the correct way. Because now in this way, in the perspective you have actually, you're only thinking about the results. Think about the process. Focus on the process. How can you make it enjoyable? That's the point here. The point is not making your final process edible for the public. It's not what you are most focused on right now. What you're most focused on is creating a space in which you want to write 10 pages. You want to achieve this volume. Because once you want to write 10 pages every day, you reach a level of consistency which is rare. So the very fact that you're able to write these 10 pages in a consistent manner every day depends on the fact that you want to write them. You want to enjoy the process of writing these pages. So how do you do it? Start by giving you this objective, and that's the only objective in terms of results you want to give yourself. Try to write 1 page in 10 minutes. So if we deconstruct that, it's 3 pages in 30 minutes, then you take a break, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what you need. Then you return to writing, 4 pages in 40 minutes, another break, and finally 3 pages in 30 minutes, and you stop there. And really 10 pages here acts as a minimum base, but also as a maximum base, because maybe you may not enjoy the process anymore after 10 pages. So there's a margin here. Maybe you enjoy the process when only writing 8 pages, or maybe you enjoy the process when you write 12 pages. You can modulate that. Now, how do you make it enjoyable per se? Well, the simplest way is to make it interactive, but how do you make it interactive when it's just you? Well, it's never just you. You always have the story. You always have the story as your partner. And this partner may want to try different things. So the easiest way to play with the story is to change her a little. You can change the type of story you're writing. If your first novel, if your first series, if your first movie was an action movie, maybe you can shift to drama, and then to adventure, and then to horror, and then to comedy, and back to action. And you do that just by thinking about the most essential trait of all these genres. There is a way to reach 10 pages quite easily. And it's by only focusing on the sensation you have when you write. Not the number of pages per se. The easiest way to reach the 10 pages. And if you follow this, if you follow these guidelines in terms of time consumption, it shouldn't be too taxing for you. Even if you're enjoying the process, it can be quite difficult in the beginning, at least in the 6th first month. But if you want to focus on the process, if you are able to focus solely on the process and be playful, it shouldn't be too difficult. Now, if you're dubious, you may want to fix you an objective. I want to write 10 pages a day, and that's quite the objective already, but you may want to tell you, okay, I'm gonna write 10 pages a day, but I'm not gonna skip any day. So how does it translate to? Well, if you're able to write 10 pages a day, that's 300 pages a month. So it's a book a month. Just imagine that. It's 3,650 pages, and that's in a regular year, pages a year. So that's a full series, or that's a very large book, or that's a trilogy. It's all about scale, really. So you're managing this volume, but imagine that at the end of the year you have more than 3,000 pages written, if you follow that. I think that's a way to recognize yourself as more valid, as more potent, and well, that's a step to happiness. The most important thing you want to take out of this section is that writing 10 pages a day will grant you a level of consistency which is extremely rare. Now imagine that, how you can, because of course you'll have a book every month written, but think about what you'll be learning, because this section is about enjoying the process and being able to experiment. And now think about all that you'll be able to learn from writing so much, from trying so many type of combinations, and more of that in the next section on the experimentation. But think about all the rules you'll be able, one, to learn, to invalidate, because there are some rules about writing that you think you know now, or you think are true now, but Really, who writes 10 pages a day? How many authors write 10 pages a day? Because now, if you're able to practice so much, you'll be able to verify that some rules aren't valid, and that some rules may be missing. Because you've achieved this level of proficiency just by volume, you'll be able maybe to create these new rules, these rules that are missing to storytelling in general. The funniest way to become a happier storyteller is experimentation. Now, you want to focus on experimentation at each step of your book writing, of your movie developing, of your game building. But why does experimentation need its own section then? You want to become playful. You want to become original in your process. Now, what does that imply? You want to turn your stories into games. That's already been said in the episode on how to become a better storyteller. But now, how does it help you to become a happier storyteller as well? Well, if you give yourself the authorization to experiment, you'll achieve a greater sense of enjoyment. Now, how does it work? Well, you want to try different type of stories. But what does different type of stories mean? It means different types of genre, characters, and settings. And at the same time, you want to try this different combination, see what works best together, and what you have to adapt, what you want to make more personal, what you want to customize to coincide more with your own sense of identity. The same thing applies to the playing part, which is really a development of the experimentation part. Let's suppose you're starting with adventure. Then you do a drama, then horror, then action, then back to adventure. Now, we're not putting comedy in this schema, because you can consider that you can add comedy to action, adventure, drama, or horror. It mixes very well with any of these four genres. Now, that's one schema, that's one pathway. You can also start from drama and then get to action, to adventure, to horror, to drama, to action, and it makes an infinite loop like that. You can really start from any point on this schema and go for the other genre, just as that. And then you add your frame. You had the frame of fantasy, you had the frame of western, you had the frame of science fiction, you had the frame of war, and so on and so forth. So it's really about giving yourself an agenda. For example, this year I want to write 10 books. Okay, first book will be a drama. It will be a drama with some comedy, and the frame will be mystery. It will be a mystery. It will be a mystery. Maybe you want to add some romance, and same thing for adventure. The second book I'm writing is adventure. Then you had a pinch of comedy, and the frame is, let's say it's a swashbuckler. That's the frame you choose here. And as you advance in your experimentation, you can customize more and more. Think about the very fact that now you're writing 4 pages a day, 5 pages a day, up to 10 pages a day. The volume you're producing allows you to find more and more ideas, more and more individual ideas, more intimate ideas, more ideas that define you. Once you've done all that, and really, in the comment section, if you have any question on any section and any part of each section of this video, for example, if you have question on how to customize a pulp story, an action type frame pulp story, leave the question in the comment section. Same thing for okay, I'm writing a horror story and the frame is war. How do I customize that? Which setting should I choose? Which character should I choose? Leave your question in the comment section. And when you've done all that, you want to receive some feedback. And there's really one question you want to ask yourself and to the person who gives you feedback when you want to receive it is, what should I change? What should I do differently? And how? Or in a simpler manner, how should it be done differently? And it really concerns three main dimensions: the characters, the settings, and the environments. You can add items, you can add storylines, you can add objects, you can add organizations or relationships, but it will all fall into these three main dimensions: characters, settings, and environments. So once you receive your feedback, it's back to step one. The surest way to become a happier writer and a more flexible writer is through impersonation. Impersonation involves the fact that you will get into each of your characters. It is more important for main and secondary characters, but you can extend this logic to tertiary characters as well. And when it comes to main and secondary characters, you can make use of roles. Most of your characters, whatever their function is, will have a role. And these roles will most often be classified in four main categories: rivals, enticers, advisors, and arbiters. If you'd like us to deliver a full video on the 12 different kind of roles, leave us a comment and we'll produce a more extensive version on roles. As your characters are individual, they'll express this individuality through three dimensions: actions, which is the closest to the story dimension, the most visible one; behavior, which is the intermediate dimension, which is the dimension which will be developed through the whole story as your character advances through crisis; and finally, identity, which is the dimension which will be the deepest one, the most difficult to read if your character hasn't got the time to be developed properly. Now, identity relates directly to the origins of the character, her needs, her wants, her fears, and most often, the quirks she harbors. Now, all these elements of her origins will be directly translated into her action, and in a due situation, your character will act either in one case, a case which will be linked to her fears, one other case which will be linked to her quirks, a third case which will be linked to her wants, and a fourth case which will be linked to her needs. The number of possibilities your character have in any due situation only depend on the level of flexibility you want to achieve. You can improvise as many kind of responses as you need. All of that by considering the consistency and the coherence of your character's actions, which is why four different possibilities seems to be a balanced number. When it comes to the bridge between action and identity, behavior will be seen through the whole story. Behavior will be defined by the character's origins, so her identity dimension, and they will partially also be defined by her role. There's a direct interdependency between the behavior of the character and the role of the character in the name of the goal. The character's goal, which is directly related to her weaknesses and strengths, will influence the choices of the character in terms of role. If you want to impersonate your character easily, you want to consider all these traits subsequently in each situation. Every time your character is facing a new issue, a new problem, you want to return to the character's identity, her origins, her needs, her wants, her fears, her quirks. So you really want to, create a character sheet for each of your characters, and it doesn't have to be more than what you're seeing right now. You can use this as a template. You can use this map as a template in order to map every and each of your characters' potential reaction. So literally in the top right corner, you write the 4 kind of main reactions your character can have. In the bottom left corner, you write your character's goal, your character's weaknesses and strengths. And finally, in the top left corner, you write your character's role and her interaction with the other role. This way, you'll be able to impersonate each of your character and improvise their dialogues and reaction more easily. The deepest way to become a happier writer is to place a part of your identity in each of your characters, environments, and worlds. You want to impersonate your character. So as a follow-up from the last section, you want to place a fragment of your identity, and it can be a behavior trait, an action, a quirk in each of your character. So start with 6 main characters and 6 traits defining you, and place 1 trait defining you in each of these 6 characters. Which kind of trait would you want to focus on? Well, you want to focus on your need in order to create more relatable need for your character. Now, every time your character is supposed to grow, to evolve, to change through the story, it helps you, it supports you, it assists you. The character's growth is your growth on the defined trait that you've chosen to grant to your character. Same for wants, because we want to balance needs and wants. So insert a bit of your passions in each of your character. Can be any element of knowledge that you decide is defining you. Any skill which is defining your identity can be granted to your characters. So try to find 6 skills or 6 pieces of knowledge which define you, and grant one of them to each of your main characters. Finally, for the quirks, you may be a little less direct with this one, because the themes of the story, the themes you've already defined, are already doing it for you. The very fact that you've chosen a specific symbol, a specific object, a specific location to represent the themes of your story, which is only an expression of your identity, will help you to create your 6 characters. So if you have this thematic, this cover, maybe because you've designed your cover yourself, and you used the main theme of your story to create the name of your book, of your movie, of your game, will help you to create 6 characters which are directly dependent of these. So try to fragment this theme, this main theme, or more literally, you write down your main theme, your core theme in the middle of your sheet of paper, and really, each of these maps that we're doing, you can use them directly as templates. So in the bottom right corner of your sheet of paper, you write the main theme of your story, and you try to find 6 adjacent themes, and these 6 adjacent themes will define your 6 main characters. The final way to become a happier writer is to share your work. Final here does not mean the last one in a chronological sense. It's the most definitive way. It's the most sustainable way. The very fact that you're able to identify yourself through your themes, through your world, through the characters populating this world, through the items and objects present in this world, will allow you to share a part of yourself with your public. And you'll need your public. Again, the public is an essential part, just like the characters, of your story's development, of your world's evolution. The feedback of your public, because you're sharing all your story with them, will allow you to let them participate, and through this participation to grow your empathy. Now, when it comes to sharing your stories, you want to share fragments of most of your stories, most of your books, most of your movies, and most of your games, just as samples. And you want to get feedback from these samples first, and then be able to modify your story if you ever have to. Generally, we recommend that you don't remove anything from your story, you just add more. A more advanced system here, a more advanced process, which follows the same logic as sharing samples of your work with your public on, we may say, as many channels as you can. It can be through direct message. You can directly send your pieces to your public, but you can also share them on any platform, and as many platforms as you can. Try to find where your public is. But a more advanced method is to giving your books, to giving away one of your books, one of your movies, one of your games to a specific person. And it can be a large amount of individuals. It can be a large wedge of your public, for example. You'll have to just think about how your world and your thematics, or in another way, your will to share, is displayed through the books, through the movies, through the games, to this specific person. Again, the objective here is still to enhance your level of empathy. Finally, what you want to consider to share is your story itself. Even if it's not fixed in a formal way, and by a formal way, again, we mean books, movies, video games. You don't have to fix your story in an official way in order to share it. You can just improvise. You can just improvise it at any social event. And here, you enhance your skill of improvisation. You get more experience through sharing your story, stories you didn't even written, and you augment your level of flexibility. So sharing is the definitive element when it comes to enhancing your own experience as a writer, and also the experience of the public and the people you're giving your stories to. The very fact that you want to share your story in any due situation where people are willing to listen to them is the greatest single action you can take right now to become a happier storyteller. Share your story. Share your themes. If you like this video and want more of this type of content, check our video on the 6 surefire ways to create a story.